So here we are on Metal Wani right now, and with us we have Mark Holcomb of Periphery. How are we doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm just in California, just about
Mhm.
as far away as possible as I can be from you.
Fantastic. Now, after more than 2 years of waiting, Juggernaut is finally approaching its release date. So, how does it feel to finally have it out there?
Well, I gotta say it's pretty just kind of relieving to have the songs trickle out one by one.
Hmm.
We've put so much time and effort, and even before the recording of the album and the writing, just this conceptualizing of what exactly we wanted it to be.
Right.
That process lasted years. I mean, we started that process as Periphery 2 was coming out. I remember, we sat down right after that album came out 3 years ago, and we sat down and we were like, all right, so let's not waste any time. What do you guys want the second album to be, or the double album to be?
Hmm.
And then we started throwing around adjectives and throwing around, sort of high level concept ideas. So, I mean, the album has just been, or the albums, I should say, have been coming through the sort of gauntlet for a couple of years now, and
Right.
it's relieving. It's relieving to see, uh, these songs sort of get heard and read all the comments and stuff, which I definitely do.
That's awesome because one of the reasons that Juggernaut was so impatiently longed for by the fans was because you guys stuck to a concept this time. So could you tell us about how, who came up with the story and, how it is put across both Alpha as well as Omega?
Yeah, yeah. So the concept of Juggernaut has been floating around our consciousness for a long time now.
Hmm.
Back in the early days, I mean, Misha, before this was this current version of the band, he had wanted to do a Juggernaut concept album years and years ago. I'm talking 7 years ago or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but it's always just been a word that we've thrown around, Juggernaut. Oh, one day we got to do this concept album called Juggernaut. It'll be a story, it'll be theatrical, it'll be this big sort of production, as opposed to just a regular Periphery album. So we've
Right.
thought about it for a long time, but when we actually sat down to write it,
Hmm.
that's when things took a different turn. For the first time, we actually had a story, and Spencer wrote that story.
Awesome.
Almost, yeah, it's a pretty detailed, intricate narrative that I don't want to spoil right here, right now. We haven't really been saying much just because Spencer personally wants the album to come out. He wants people to sort of read the lyrics, and when you like see too much of a movie in a trailer or something like that,
Right.
like I saw that movie Interstellar a couple weeks ago, and I saw so much in the trailer, and I was like, damn, I wish I hadn't seen so much of that. So
Right, right.
yeah, we kind of want that to be the kind of look we're going for here, But it is a very, very detailed story that's spread out across both albums.
So you're maintaining that secret level for your fans to actually open up this story when they listen to the music.
Yes, yes, definitely. And thematically, there's a ton of lyrical themes, and there's a
Hmm.
ton of recurring, which I don't know if you or your listeners have checked out, but there's a ton of recurring melodic themes through the album. I mean, the last two songs we put out 22 Faces yesterday,
Right.
and uh, and The Bad Thing a couple weeks ago, and those two songs share a pretty um, um, obvious hook and set of lyrics there that kind of stuff is just all over the album, and we want that to kind of be something that the fan picks up and notices, as opposed to us bashing them over the head with it.
Right. I totally
Yeah.
agree with that. And how hard do you feel, it would be for the fans to actually wrap their head around the storyline?
Um, that's interesting because we've been sort of immersed in it for months and months ourselves, but I think it's pretty clear cut. It's not something like an Inception type of story where you're like, what was that? Um,
Yeah.
it's a narrative. It's about a character, one single character who deals with a lot of traumatic events,
Mhm.
and he goes through some pretty heavy life changes. And I'll keep it at that. It's not a super sort of hard to follow story. It's pretty much spelled out there in the lyrics, and maybe looking at the song titles, you maybe could get just a sort of initial glimpse as to what the character puts up with in the story.
Right, because when I think of how a typical Periphery music is all about, now when I listen to this album, I kind of feel that your fans are definitely going to have mixed reactions, and you must have already seen them, for the singles which you have released, and it shouldn't be surprising considering that you guys are heading in a different direction with this record. So, what do you think a typical peripheral would think about Juggernaut as a whole? On the first couple listens before it actually sinks in.
Yeah, it's funny. As much as musicians like to say that we're above reading feedback and critical response to our own music,
Mm-hmm.
I think our relationship with our fans and our willingness to put ourselves out there and communicate on a one-to-one level with our fans,
True.
that's what makes us who we are. And that sort of adds a certain level of appeal to our actual music. Um, but what that can do sometimes is it makes you very vulnerable to feedback. So I try and personally um, not get on that level and not let it affect me. But it's funny because the songs that we put out The Scourge first. That's a very moody,
Yeah.
uh, ballad-like, sort of brooding, dark song with a lot of dynamics, and it doesn't have a really quick first punch. It sort of just sits there and it lets you sort of digest it very slowly. And people hated that song, man. Some people really, really hated that song. They're like, "Wow, what happened to Periphery? Where's their balls? Where's their fire?"
Mm-hmm.
And then we came out with The Bad Thing, which was a bit more in our direction. And then 22 Faces sort of has an immediate punch to it. So um, it's funny to see all the reactions. There's a lot of people who are expecting us to be a certain way on this album. I don't know what they're expecting. Maybe they want us to repeat Periphery too. But I would urge fans who either you love the music or you hate the music, but I would urge you to wait until the albums come out and listen to them all together because one interesting comment I read about The Scourge was that it sounds like it's part of a bigger production. It's just one
Right.
piece in a huge puzzle. And that's certainly correct with all the songs that you're going to hear before the album comes out. It's just it's meant to be part of a two album concept. So don't spoil yourself too quickly because it's meant for a big, long, extended listen.
Right, I get you because we have 17 tracks, we have an amazing concept, so there's a lot of surprise element for the fans. I mean, by just listening to one or two tracks, actually a fan will not do justice to the album.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we meant for the songs to be digestible as a sort of just a one piece, these songs, I think they work on their own as one song, but really, if you want the full effect, they were written to pair together and to work together, not
Right.
to work singles. We didn't want to sit there and write 17 singles. We wanted to write a collection of 17 songs that felt like it was telling a very
More like a
cinematic
journey.
story. Yeah, yeah, exactly, a journey.
Fantastic. Now, it appears to me that you have more of an old school metal influence than the rest of the band. I mean, it was quite evident for a while that black metal, has had a heavy influence on you. This has made me even clearer by the track Pale Aura on the Clear EP. Now, with that said, you're a great example to actually prove that you can enjoy both the old school and a modern metal music. So tell us about your influences and how you channel them into your style you write music.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say that. I actually prefer the old school than I do the new school. I can sit here and name, old bands that I like and vintage bands that I like and maybe come up with 5 to 7 names of modern bands that I really, really love.
Mhm.
Um, but uh, but yeah, that's my background, man. I mean, I grew up playing guitar to that stuff, and I love death metal and black metal. I mean, yeah, like the band Emperor is my favorite band ever. I got really, really big into black metal when I was a teenager, and you know, it's something that it's still reflected in my style. I think
Right.
it's a struggle to incorporate it into this music for sure because this music is all about very slick production and very concise arrangements and
Transitions.
transitions and all that stuff. I mean, it's a pretty controlled environment, whereas death metal, that stuff's very just let's go, let's fly off the handle, let's just play some crazy, fast, mean, aggressive music. So Pale Aura, I mean, I'm sure you know that the concept of Clear was for all of us to do our own style, right? It
Right.
was to tackle our own style and choose one theme, and we do it in whatever style we prefer. That was an excuse for me to put blast beats in our music and to put a and to put some sort of darker elements. And there's some of it on Juggernaut as well. You know, there's always going to be a little push from my side with the band to use a little bit more of that style. I'm always going to be the guy in the band that is, instead of doing a groove beat, play a blast beat. You know?
Right, it's really cool to hear. So, talking about the album, how was the writing process this time around? Was it like all the members are contributing, or was it like there was some older bulb demos which were used, or was it like something newly created by you guys?
Yeah, I mean, really, there's one and a half old bulb demos out of 17 songs.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a bulb demo called Mr. Person that we used for a song called MK Ultra,
Hmm.
uh, which is the first song or the second
The
song
second
on.
track on Alpha. Right.
Yes, exactly. But the rest, that was all written together, and I gotta say that was one of the coolest experiences we've ever had as a band. Sort of me, Jake, and Misha sitting there in a room and writing for a couple months. Really, I mean, we went over there almost every day. We sat down, traded the guitar back and forth, and just we recorded riffs, programmed drums, and then we sent it out to the band at night, and everybody gave their feedback and response. And yeah, that was great because we've never done that as a band. With
Hmm.
Periphery 2, I wrote Scarlet, I wrote Mile Zero, a good chunk I Have a Blast, and some other songs, but it really was done in a very separate way.
Right.
Um, like we spent time on our own writing these songs, and we get together and maybe arrange them together. But with this, we sat there in a room and we wrote literally almost every note together, and
Awesome.
that was a pretty enriching experience. And I won't lie and tell you that it was easy, because when you have a bunch of opinions involved in the creation of something, there's always going to be some push and pull and some level,
Right.
you know. But I think for the purposes of getting the best picture of who we are as a band, doing it this way, there's no way we'll go back.
Right.
Yeah, this is how we're going to be writing music in the future, and it's a very enriching experience. And I think whenever you're in a band, you're in a touring band, and it consumes your life. The best way for you to feel invested in your career is to work with people who are also creative and people who
Right.
want to
Absolutely.
create and contribute to a product. And after doing this once, I really am excited to just go and record another Periphery album. We were already talking about a new album.
Oh, cool. It's not
Yeah,
even out yet. Fans have to wait for another month and a half.
I know, man. You know us. You know us. We never stop.
It's non-stop, absolutely. Now, so we were talking about Scarlet as well, because that seems to be the fun song, Periphery has done so far. Even the video was, unfathomably funny. How did you guys come up with that team mustard and team ketchup concept for that song?
It's funny. People always say, "Oh, you guys are so silly. Only you would write a concept like that." It must have been Misha. Or it must have been you. It definitely wasn't any of us. It was our director, Wes Richardson,
Awesome.
who um, who directed Make Total Destroy as well. And he was like, "What do you guys want to do for the second video?" We're like, "Let's do something silly." And so he said, "Okay, what do you think of these concepts?" And then he sent us these wacky concepts. One of which was the mustard spaceship. And once he said mustard spaceship, we were all like, "Tell us more." And then it was history from there. But it was such a stupid, fun experience. It was a very silly video, but we had a lot of fun making it.
Absolutely. Now, we also heard a guest solo played by you on Skyharbor's new album, Guiding Lights. So how did it
Oh,
all come about?
yeah, I basically begged them to do a solo. No, I'm just kidding. I love those guys. But yeah, Keshav hit me up. He wrote me an email and said, "Would you like to do a solo?" And of course, I said yes. I love that dude. I love Anoop and the guys in that band and Daniel. So I mean, they're all good guys, and I love their music. So it was a real pleasure to do it. He just wrote me by email. I recorded it on my own completely from Washington D.C. and then I sent him over the solo,
Awesome.
and he said it worked well with the music. And I mean, listening back to the track now, the final version, It sounds awesome. I love the whole record you put
Absolutely.
out. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Now, when you guys came to India in December 2012, the response was phenomenal. Considering the modern prog metal scene was a relatively new concept for India. But since then, I don't know, how much you're aware, but Periphery's fan base has grown exponentially here.
Has it
So,
really?
how was your experience, here, and when can we actually expect a return?
Oh man. Oh, that's a good question because I would come back next week if I could. We've been trying to get back there ever since that because what we were shown in India was one of the most surreal um, experiences in our career.
Mhm.
We were treated so well from everyone, right down from the promoters to the fans, from the other bands, from everyone. And the show, well, first of all, let me take a step back. That was the most jet lagged I've ever been in my life.
That's a generic statement for me as a fan because all the musicians say that, and I can completely understand.
Yeah, we were only there really for like a day and a half, and we spent a day flying, and we spent a day flying back. So we were in the air longer than we were on the ground. Um, so there's very few things about the show that I remember because I was just so whacked out of my mind. I didn't know where I was on stage. I didn't know what I was playing. So hopefully I didn't play too bad.
It was a great experience, seeing Testament on day one and then Periphery on day two. It was a great experience for fans to witness these two different bands on the same stage.
Yeah, yeah. I remember Testament was there, and I saw Gojira the night before too.
Yes, the Gojira was on the same day, actually. It was like tough choice for metalheads to whether should we go for Testament or should we go for Gojira. So it was
Right.
more like a
Guys,
very tough
guys,
battle.
Gojira and the old guys went to Testament, huh?
Absolutely. Now, as a fan, I mean, for the sake of fans' information, what it takes for Periphery to, to sustain economically and how important are the album sales, the first week sales and the other miscellaneous sales are important for a band.
Yeah, I mean, first week sales is a big number for us, and it's somewhat of an arbitrary thing. It really doesn't mean more money in our pockets. That's a big
Mhm.
misconception that a lot of people have. When people go out there and brag about, oh, we did 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 first week sales, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily bringing home a bigger paycheck.
Right.
Um, and especially in this day and age, record sales never really accounted for much of a metal musician's income. And with the economy in music the way it is these days, that certainly is the case. Is not the case, but with with the nature of touring and tour offers, having the ability to say that we sold X and X records your first week, that sort of makes you more, I don't want to say desirable. I guess desirable is an okay word.
Mhm.
Desirable in the eyes of bands who want to take you out on tour. It's more of a bragging right than anything in the industry,
Right.
uh, and it does dictate what kind of tours you get and what kind of recognition you get from radio and all these other sources. So, as kind of meaningless as it is in terms of dollar amount for a musician, it does help some other sort of side things, like tour offers
Right.
and things like that. Yeah.
And then you have to find the right bands to tour with because it's quite difficult for fans to have a band like Periphery and then to have a band like Megadeth on the same bill. Gets difficult.
Right. Right. But if Megadeth were to approach us, let's say Dave Mustaine is thinking about taking us on tour, and then his manager's like, well, what do you think? And Dave's like, I don't know, should I take him on tour? If the manager says, look at this, they sold, 5,000 records first week, Dave Mustaine would be like, oh, that's it? Maybe we should look at another band. Whereas if he says, hey, they sold 30,000 first week and it's only their third album or something like that,
Mhm.
uh, that might be a different look. So it's that kind of thing. It's just kind of a badge to wear, which other sources can look at you and say,
Right.
hey, are these guys worth it or not? More than anything, that's what it's become.
Absolutely, Mark. So if you had to try and sell Juggernaut to an old school metalhead, but you could only use a sentence, what would you say?
Yeah. I hope you don't hate it too much. No, I'm just kidding. To an old school metalhead.
Right.
Oh, let's see. I got it. Okay. All right. So, okay, I saw King Diamond lately.
Hmm.
I saw him play in Washington, D.C., and I was like, man, this guy is awesome. He only recorded concept albums. Like that's all he ever did. And I thought that was so cool. Here we are making a big deal about having a concept album, and King Diamond only did concept albums. So I would say it's a modern bastardized version of King Diamond.
Wonderful, Mark. I actually didn't expect this, but you definitely hit it.
That may not be accurate, but that's how I would sell it. And then he'd probably punch me in the face for lying to him later.
Fantastic, Mark. It's an honor having a chat with you. I definitely look forward to see you guys live. I don't know what's your touring schedule for 2015.
So we do 4 weeks in the United States in January, and then we go to Russia for 5 shows,
Awesome.
and then we go and do a month in Europe with Devin Townsend. And then we're doing some festivals in April, May across the U.S. And then, you know, we're looking to go back to Australia, Asia after that. And then I mean, we're looking for an India offer, man. We're always listening for India because that was one of the most special experiences of our lives, and we would just love to come
And I'm
back.
sure you will definitely get an offer very soon from India.
I hope so, man. If there's anybody, if the powers that be are listening to this, bring us back.
It would happen definitely because fans are eagerly waiting for because we were torn between Gojira and Testament, man. So it was very difficult for us. And plus, the kind of income we have here for students, they have to think 10 times before shelling out money for the show. So it becomes a tough choice for the fans here to decide whether we go and watch Periphery or Gojira. So I hope
Right.
next time there's no clash when you guys come over here because that'll really be a great experience.
Yeah, we'll try and avoid any conflicts. We'll try to make sure that there's no other like-minded bands playing anywhere near us.
Fantastic, Mark. And an honor of having a chat with you. I wish you all the best for the album and also for your future tours. Look forward to meet you as well and have a wonderful, wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you, sir. Take care. It was a pleasure talking with you. I'll talk to you soon.